Hello, hello. Welcome to the I Want This to Work Masterclass, Finding Your Love of Nursing. I want to just start with who I am. My name is Jana Holterman. I'm a nurse burnout coach. I'm going to go over a few housekeeping things and then we'll kind of get right into what we're going to be covering in this class. So this is going to be approximately an hour. The end will be Q&A time. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, like during the presentation specifically, feel free to raise your hand. If I don't stop, you can unmute yourself and ask me that question. But if it's like a general question, for sure, save that for the end. If you need to jump off or on at any point, no problem. You'll be able to do that. And then say you miss part of it, there will be a replay sent out. My goal is to have the replay sent out by tomorrow, so within 24 hours. So you'll be able to access it. You'll be able to rewatch anything. You will be able to watch it for the first time. So if you're watching the replay, welcome. To start with, we'll go over like the goals of this masterclass. The goal of this masterclass is really to help you understand the skills that you have and learn the skills in order to move beyond burnout in nursing so that you can love what you do, you can recognize the impact that you are able to make as a nurse and create a career that you really want to be in. So we're going to learn how to eliminate nurse burnout. Then we're going to talk about how to feel better in your career, no matter where you're working as a nurse. That is something that I think is really true, that you can kind of be able to like nursing if you're in your best nursing job. So that's the third thing we're going to talk about, is figuring out what your best nursing job is. So you can love nursing no matter where you work, but there are certain areas of nursing that you are better suited for, that is going to help you create that career that you want. So we're going to talk about those kind of three things: how to eliminate burnout, how to feel better about your nursing career, and then how to find your best nursing career. So to start with, kind of going to go over a little bit about myself. So I am Jana Holterman. I am a nurse burnout coach. I have been I was on a journey to figure out who I was as a nurse for a while. I was kind of one of those people who wasn't really sure what they wanted to do with their career. Like, I knew I liked science, I liked helping people. There was things that like I was interested in nursing, but I felt like I was going to go towards more sciencey stuff. Ended up going into doing my bachelor's degree in nursing, and throughout nursing, like we did so many different um, placements and things, and there was never anything other than like maybe critical care, but I wasn't too sure that I was like, this is my place in nursing. So through nursing school, I was a nurse tech in like a float pool. So I just started being an RN in the float pool because I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. So I did everything, and this was like in a big hospital system. So I floated between like three main different hospitals all over the place, did med surge, every kind of, med surgical unit all over the place. And I very quickly was like drained, exhausted. As a float pool nurse, they tend to give you those most difficult, most complicated, the patients that they are sick of over and over again. And so you're going to like every unit and getting those patients over and over again. It was incredibly draining, incredibly exhausting. So I was feeling severe burnout. And I had always been like pretty good with my nutrition. I was pretty good with my fitness, and that was like how I knew how to create more energy for myself. So I like went hardcore with my nutrition, and like I hired a personal trainer and I got super fit and like was probably the most fit that I've ever been in my life. It had me feeling better a little bit energetically, but I still felt lost in my nursing career. I still like didn't really know what I wanted to do. I still just like felt drained and exhausted every single time I went to shift. I was dreading going to work, and it was just like this like cycle of just like, I don't even want to be here. I don't know where I want to be, but I don't know. So an opportunity was presented to me to switch into critical care float, and I was like, perfect, like I think I'm gonna like critical care better. So I did critical care float, and same thing, going all over the place. Like, I liked there was things that I liked better about critical care. So it was like slowly warming up to like, this is slightly more what I want for myself. And then I ended up taking like a long-term assignment in the cardiovascular ICU, and I ended up really finding so many things that I liked about that. And that was kind of like, okay, this is it. I ended up switching to working there full time. I did all the training, all the certifications, did all of the things, checked all of the boxes, and I still felt drained, exhausted, overwhelmed. Like, even though I was quote unquote there, I had found that place that I was like, this is where I'm going to be as a nurse. And I just felt more like confused. So, despite getting my fitness on point, despite getting nutrition on point, despite quote unquote doing the things that like I knew were supposed to make me feel better, I still didn't feel the way that I wanted to feel in my career. So that was kind of when I started like looking for alternatives that I hadn't considered before. So I started listening to podcasts and reading all these personal development books, and this concept of life coaching kept coming up. And at that point, that was like 4 or 5 years ago now. So like life coaching is a little bit more mainstream than it was then, but then it was like, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what a life coach is, no idea whatsoever. It just keeps coming up. Literally Googled it, saw there was a life coach in my area. I like called her and we started coaching in person because I was like, yep, I need this. That opportunity shifted everything because I learned who I was. I learned who like I wanted to be. I learned what like I actually wanted to get out of my career. What was important? How did I want to actually create a career that was like good for me? And my coach was just a general coach, so she is not nursing background, and like I feel like that was what was like the missing component with that work was like she didn't understand how it works for nurses, and I was like, this is what nurses need. They need this support. So I went and got my coach certification and training, and that like I finished that like right as COVID hit. And I kind of like literally had to use all of the skills and the knowledge that I had learned to be able to survive that for myself without like completely burning out again. And I did have some experiences of burnout through COVID. Working in the ICU, we literally had like in the CV, we had 12 ECMOs running, and like watching so many patients die was a very traumatic experience for me. But I had the resources and support to take care of myself, to ask for help and seek help, to be able to manage it and get through it. And I think that was completely like a transformational of experience. Oops, sorry, my dog is missing jumping on the bed. Oops. Um, so, and that was a transformational experience for me learning. You don't realize how strong you are until you go through something like that and how you show up. So that was kind of when I was like nurse, like really all in. So since then, I have been growing my coaching business, really supporting nurses, figuring out who they are, what they want, how to live and create careers free of burnout so that you can have a career that you absolutely love inside and outside the hospital, where you actually get to live a life that is good to you. So you can be like completely whole. Having that energy and capacity to show up for your personal life is just as important, if not more important, than being able to enjoy your career. So to start with, it really starts with understanding our brains. How do our brains work? Your brain is designed to keep you safe. And I really want you to understand that, like, our brains were programmed and like evolutionarily designed to keep us safe from like literal threats, lions, tigers, bears, other humans. And we have not brain-wise like evolved to recognize that we don't have the same level of threats. So at the end of the day, basically our brain is designed to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And it tries to avoid the pain, it tries to avoid that lion that's coming after us or could be coming after us by focusing all of our energy on it. And we have that fight flight response, and we're like, we need to know where the lion is so that like if it comes to attack us, we know what to expect. Now, here's the problem. in nursing, we experience life and death situations. We experience all of these traumatic situations that are stressful. We have this fight or flight response that happens in our brain, and our brain attaches and it focuses on it so strongly because it literally thinks it's trying to protect us from a lion, a tiger, a bear. The problem is that we're not functioning clearly. We're literally just functioning at that, like, I need to get myself to safety. I need to avoid this difficult situation. So we aren't able to handle those stresses and tensions in nursing in a way that serves us. What it does is it physiologically puts us in that fight or flight response for long term, which causes long term physiological changes and psychological changes in our bodies that in response to stress add to the burnout, add to that inability to respond anymore because your body is just getting triggered and triggered and triggered by all of these stressors in our situation. So we need to understand this and understand how our brains are interpreting the stress of nursing to be able to handle that, to learn the skills, to manage that, to move forward. The other thing that's really important for us to understand is your brain wants to be right all of the time. So when your brain creates a belief system, it's going to constantly look for evidence to reinforce that belief. So if your brain thinks that your job is a problem, your brain is then going to find so much evidence, all of the reasons, and be able to list it in a heart like a second that your job is the problem. So when I start working with my clients, it's not necessarily immediately changing things. What we do to begin with is start figuring out your and better understanding how your brain is creating your current reality, creating your current interpretation of your reality, because that's what's happening. So I use a model to help my clients understand this, and I'm going to teach you guys how this works so that you can have that better awareness of where you are right now, because you need to understand what's created your current situation in order to change it and create sustainable change. Because yes, you can get motivated, you can like force yourself to do different things. You can go to the gym and you can work out really hard, but if you don't change the way that your brain thinks and the way that like the beliefs that you have about your system or yourself, you're going to end up sliding back into that pre-programmed brain behavior. So if you took up going to the gym for New Year's resolution, you probably had some motivation for the first week or two, and then when things get difficult, you slide right back into the way that you always do things. So if you understand the way that you always do things, we can understand how to better create habits and systems that allow you to create change for what you want. So this model really goes on a cognitive behavioral approach to understanding how your thoughts work. So if you understand yourself, you can make those changes. So really what we need to start with is circumstances. This is, what are we even talking about? Like when we figure out, sorry, acorn, it's like lying right underneath the. So when we are figuring out what we are even talking about, we need to understand the circumstance. So this is like specific things. That is me, you, and three other people could look at a situation and say, yep, we all agree this is a circumstance that, on this floor, the staffing ratio on this shift is 1 to 4. We can all look at that and interpret that as something that is factual, and we all agree. So that is a circumstance. Once we personally, so I go and have a circumstance, we experience that. Once we experience that circumstance, we have thoughts about it. So everybody can agree that that circumstance is the same, but we all have different thoughts and beliefs about that circumstance. So when we interpret, when we have that experience, we're going to think different things. That's because we're different humans with different experiences. So our thoughts are going to be different. This is when things start to happen. So your brain sees the situation, it thinks certain thoughts based on, years of experience that it has with those situations. It thinks a certain thought, which causes a feeling. Now, here's the thing. Most of us are not even aware of the feeling that we are having. So every single time we have a thought, and most of us on average have 60,000 thoughts a day, your brain is thinking a thought, and then it sends a signal to our bodies. Our bodies have a sensation based on those thoughts that then gets reinterpreted by our brains as a feeling, and it can label that. But a lot of the times we're not even labeling it. We're just experiencing sensations in our bodies, which are literally just feelings from those thoughts that are happening. Now, based on the way that your body is feeling and your brain is interpreting that thought, you take action. So if you are responding, like, what are you doing based on the thoughts that you're having, based on the feelings that you're having? And at the end of the day, ultimately, based on the way you're thinking, the base of the way you're feeling, the actions, you create results. This is what you are experiencing in your life. That is your current reality based on all of the previous thoughts, feelings, and actions that you've had that has created your current situation. So if you want to have a different reality, different results, we literally need to create different thoughts, feelings, and actions. And so to understand how this works, I'm going to walk you through 3 of my actual client example models, so that you can kind of like understand this, so you can see if this resonates with where you are right now in your nursing experience. So to start with, staffing ratios, the same thing I kind of mentioned a minute ago. So the circumstances of staffing ratios, we can all look at that and agree that staffing ratios are a thing. Now, they may be different from nurse to nurse because they're different from unit to unit. So, but for my client, her circumstance was the staffing ratios that she was experiencing. And the thought that she was having based on that, like, because she was going into work and having these same difficult staffing ratios, that more patients than was the unit, what would be beneficial for that unit, I would say. So it was the unit norm to have difficult staffing ratios in that, like, there was more patients assigned per nurse than would be best for that unit or ideal for that unit. So my client was having this thought, like, I don't have time to connect and care for my patients. Like, there's just no way that I have enough time to connect and care for my patients. So she was showing up with work with this, like, okay, I walk in, I see the staffing ratios. There's just no way that I could possibly have time to connect and care for my patients. And that was something that was extremely important for her. Like, her values as a nurse was to be able to have that connection and actually feel like she was making an impact on her patients. So because she didn't have this, she didn't have the time, she just felt like it was out of her capacity and control. She felt exhausted, she feels frustrated, she feels resentful to her job. So how does she show up when she's feeling this way? She's getting overwhelmed, she gets behind on her work, she misses lunch breaks, she leaves late, she spends days, literally days, recovering from her last shifts because they're just so draining and exhausting, and she's just so short on time. It takes her days to recover. And then the day before she goes back to work, she's left spiraling, feeling anxious because she's got to go back. She's got to put herself in that situation again. And there's just so difficult for her to even believe that that's possible. It's possible for her to have enough time to care for these patients with that circumstance. The result is that she's doubting whether or not this is the right job. She's thinking about quitting on like a daily basis. She just wants to like maybe even leave nursing altogether, but she spent so much time, so much money, so much energy and effort to be where she is. It's just so difficult to even consider that this isn't the right choice for her, but she has that self-doubt of not even knowing like if this is even right for her. Does that sound like something that you've been through? Does that sound like something that you can resonate with and relate to? Me too, from where I was at. So the next one was one of my clients who has done all of the schooling. So she became a nurse, she has a bachelor's degree, she got all of the certifications, she went to graduate school, she became a nurse practitioner. She did all of the things that she felt like she should do, She checked all of the supposed boxes, and it was always like, "Okay, I'm gonna feel better when, I'm gonna feel happier when, I'm gonna get there when." And the problem was that she got to that place, she got the nurse practitioner job that she wanted to get, like, the one that she worked so hard to get to. She was in there, and then she was just completely miserable, and her thought was, "I worked too hard to be this miserable. There's no way that I worked so hard to be here, and this is it." That, like, is just she was so annoyed. She was in this state of like frustration, of exhaustion, of just self-doubt, of like, what did I do wrong to like, did I make a mistake? Or is this just like, is this just the system? Like, how could it get that I got to this place that I thought would be it? And it was just, I'm completely drained and exhausted and miserable. So how does she show up when she was thinking that way, feeling that way? She showed up doing the bare minimum. She was feeling numb about her work. She kind of was like going through the motions, like getting up, going to work, doing what you needed to do and getting home. She had a strong sense of like apathy, of just like that compassion fatigue where it's like I've lost all capacity to truly connect and care for my patients because I literally have nothing left to give. I have drained myself so completely that I have nothing left to give. So she spent time like looking and seeing what other nurses were doing on like social media and stuff to see like maybe it was better where they're at. Maybe it was just like the job that I chose. Like it's like that self-doubt of like, what if it's better over there? And wondering like if she'd be better off in another career, be better off in another job, like but at the same time, having that fear of like, I've literally invested so much into this. Like, what if it's not better somewhere else? What if it's not? What if it's like, this is just what I have to settle with because I can't quit now? I've literally put all this time, money, and effort into this. So the result that she had created in her life was really just feeling miserable, feeling trapped out of this fear of like, there's no way this could be it, but I also don't know what else is out there. So I don't want to create something worse. Yeah. And this is like sadly a story that I've heard from so many nurses. There's so many nurses that I work with as clients and that I do like burnout triage calls with that just like come to me in those same situations where you have just done all of the things that you feel like you should have done. You've done all those, you know, you've checked all the boxes, you climbed the clinical ladder, you've been there, you've done the things, and then it just did not allow you to create that career. It didn't allow you to be where you want to be. And the last model and client situation that I want to talk about, where her circumstance was sick and challenging patients. So these are like those difficult patients that like maybe they are just mentally draining and exhausting, but then also those patients just who are really sick and have so much demands of you. And her thought about based on caring for those patients of coming to work and constantly having these sick and challenging patients was like, there is no way that I can keep putting myself in these stressful situations. There's no way that I could possibly enjoy nursing in these conditions because I come every time and I get the same difficult, challenging situations over and over again. And it's slightly different, but it's the same experience. I can't keep putting myself in these stressful situations. She was feeling resentful. She was feeling frustrated, exhausted, just this emotional, energetic, completely drained, burned out. So, how was she showing up? A lot of sitting in the nursing station and bitching with the other nurses of being like, "I can't," like, you know, talking about how difficult it is. And this is a completely normal response because we have that sense of camaraderie. We're in this together. Another thing she was doing was just like doom scrolling nursing memes, talking about how shitty situation is. She would go to her manager and complain about the troubles that she was having, all the patient assignments that she was having. She would go home and just like be completely energetic, emotionally drained. So she didn't have that emotional capacity for her spouse, for her kids. So she's snapping at her spouse and her kids when she doesn't want to. Like it's not, it's almost like out of her control. She does it and then she realizes later and she's like, I just didn't want to show up in that way. And like when personal problems were occurring, it felt like she was making a mountain out of that molehill. Like there's just like everything seemed so draining, so overwhelming. It was so difficult to imagine even just managing with those small problems because of the way that the state of the burnout she was in. So really the result that she was creating is continuing this cycle of burnout over and over, being resentful for her job, not showing up in a way that she wants to in her career, but also more importantly in her personal life. It was her sense of burnout was bleeding over into her personal life. So do these sound like where you're at right now? I totally get it, and I totally understand. The good news is this masterclass is not just me pointing out that everything sucks and then leaving that with you, because you know everything sucks. You are the one that has been living in your current experience of this situation. You know. And the reason that you're likely at this masterclass is because just quitting and leaving nursing altogether likely isn't an option for you, and you want to feel better about your nursing career. You want to actually create something. So you're here looking for answers. And this is the thing. We need to recognize where our brain is and understand it better so that we can make those shifts and move. So understanding that, like, basically, like, every time, every situation that we have, we can put into this model, this thought model, and it just really puts it into a logistical way of us better understanding how our brains are creating our current realities and situations. And there's also, it's important to be aware of, just because we know our thoughts doesn't necessarily mean we have to change our thoughts, doesn't necessarily mean, like, you could always want to believe that your current nursing job, like, is not the right job for you. Like, there's no way that you're gonna keep putting yourself in this stressful situations. You can choose to believe that to be true. It doesn't mean you need to change it. I just want you to be aware of your brain and understanding how your brain works so that you can start opening yourself up to the awareness of opportunities for the better for your career. So remember, your brain always is trying to prove itself right. So if you are thinking these thoughts in repeat, what actually happens in our brain is we have axons, which are the neural connections that our brain creates when we think thoughts on repeats. So if you, like, create a new thought, it, like, creates a little axon. And the more you practice believing those thoughts, the bigger and bigger and bigger they get. And they can get like 3 to 5 microns across, which, like, in brain size, when you have thousands of thoughts a day, is a lot of space. So the beliefs that you practice believing on repeat, the thoughts that you continue to have and have over and over and over again, will become really strong. It's like basically like you going to the gym and working out your muscles. They become really strong because you consistently go and exercise your muscles. So your muscles get stronger. The same with our brain. Those axons become thicker and thicker and stronger and stronger. And then when you are in situations that your brain has experienced before, like going to another day at work, another shift at the hospital, your brain is going to think the thoughts that it's thought over and over and over again because it's the easiest neural pathway. Your brain is a little bit lazy. It likes to work on autopilot. So once you've built those strong brain muscles, your brain is just going to keep thinking those thoughts on repeat. Your brain is going to keep proving itself right. It's going to keep finding evidence to reinforce that that is the best option for you. And it's going to keep thinking those exact thoughts, which is why you have these repeated cycles of burnout, these cycles of exhaustion. It's probably why, you've literally burned yourself into the ground. You've taken time off to heal and recover. You went on vacation. You literally slept for a week. You did what you needed to do. You felt better. You went back to work and you recreated that same burnout experience, because your brain was thinking the same thoughts and creating the same experience over again. Now, there's always circumstances that are easier to think good thoughts about. It's easier to think great thoughts about your vacation to the Bahamas than it is about going to your nursing shift. Both circumstances are literally neutral, but we have created so much, like, emotional connection and emotions behind that nursing shift that are difficult to feel, that we create that negative or worse experience of it. So how does this also work? Your brain always wants to be right. And I know this is like a lot of, like, neuro stuff that you're like, I don't know about this. Your brain always wants to be right. So I'm going to give you an example of, like, how you know this to be true. Your brain is constantly going to be looking for things to reinforce the beliefs. It's going to be constantly looking for things that it feels are relevant to you. It's going to be looking for all those evidence. So if you're saying like, okay, my nursing job sucks. I hate my nursing job. Your brain's going to look for all the evidence. Okay, well, today the hand sanitizer was empty. The other one across the hall was broken. I asked for meds from pharmacy and they didn't arrive. I had to call pharmacy 3 times. I looked in the fridge. I looked in the Pyxis. I looked in the patient-specific bin. The meds were nowhere, even though they said they were somewhere. And then you spent like 30 minutes trying to get a hold of these medications. And then you went to lunch and you spilled your coffee all over. And you like your brain is literally going to constantly like find all of these evidence for why this is true. So how does this work for other things? Just imagine when you bought your vehicle, like literally when you bought your last car. If you bought a different car model than you have ever had before, and like you picked that one out, like imagine you went and you bought a white Toyota Corolla. Now you drive out of the dealership and you drive to the grocery store and you park your white Toyota Corolla, you go into the grocery store, you come out, and now you see an entire parking lot full of vehicles, and like, holy shit, there is so many white Toyota Corollas. Now, did everybody have a white Toyota Corolla, or did they just buy them in the last hour since I bought them? No. Their white Toyota Corollas have always been popular, but your brain was not like targeted to look for white Toyota Corollas until you brought it into your like universe of thinking, and now your brain is like, this is important to me. I need to know where my car is. So now it's noticing that there's white Toyota Corollas everywhere. This is exactly how your brain works. This is called observation bias. And you can start practicing this on everything. You could be like, you know what? Today I want to notice butterflies, and be like, okay, brain, I really want to notice butterflies. And then you're going to go about your day and you're going to be like, oh my God, there's pictures of butterflies everywhere. Look, there's a real butterfly in life. There's a picture of a butterfly in this book, and this, like, all of these situations where you're going to see butterflies everywhere. Your brain is adaptable. You have this thing called neuroplasticity, which is a beautiful thing, because you can change the way that your brain interprets your world and sees your environment. And this is kind of one of those things that you can practice. And so I would love for you to recognize this and recognize this as a strength that you have to create resiliency against burnout, to start creating that career that you really love. So that being said, your brain is neuroplastic. You can change the way that you think, but I guarantee you, if you go to your shift tomorrow and you're like, everything is wonderful, I love my job, it's rainbows, daisies, and butterflies, everything is amazing, slap a smile on your face, you're gonna be like, this is complete BS. This lady is crazy. Why is she telling me these things that don't work? And then you're gonna immediately go back to believing the same things you always believed, finding all the evidence for why your job is terrible. Because when we have like two polar opposites, we can't just like jump from everything sucks to everything is amazing. Your brain is so practiced and those neural muscles are so strong that it can't just like go to something polar opposite. Like, yes, you could think that thought in this moment, but it will not feel true to you because your brain doesn't believe it. So what we actually have to do is create a stepping stone. Like, literally, we're creating a bridge. And the way that we do that is finding neutral. Now, this is a concept that I teach with my like one-on-one clients. I've taught this in workshops. I've taught this on podcasts, and it is so incredibly transformational for the people who use it, because it is the way that you create like a literal change that can be noticed, like literally within one shift, of how you are experiencing your world and how you're experiencing your life. I keep like bumping into this. I'm gonna move that. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, because we're nurses, we gotta rate things on a scale of 0 to 10. 1 being like, I am completely burnout. I hate everything about my job. It is the worst place in the entire planet. To 10 being, everything is amazing. I love my job. It's the best thing I've ever had. If you are currently at like a 1, a 2, a 3, finding neutral allows you to get to that like 3, 4, 5. And you're like, well, like, I want to be a 10 in my job. Like, yes, absolutely. I 100%. And I understand that. I want to be a 10 too, but we cannot instantaneously change our brains. I would love if we could just like order it up on Amazon, feeling better and loving my career, but that's not how real life works. So we need to take this stepping stone. We need to create this bridge to feeling better. And that is that finding neutral. And what is it worth for you? And what are you willing to do in order to create that experience of going from that 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6? What is it worth? Is it worth being aware of your thoughts? Is it worth recognizing and realizing your power that you have to change your reality? This is really the point where we need to recognize that you have the capacity to change. I'd love for you to say, I'd love to tell you that healthcare is changing, that things are getting better, that staffing ratios are getting better, that patients are getting less sick, that like all of a sudden we are going to be able to all get lunch break right at noon and drink enough water and go to pee on time. And I would love to tell you that that is the future and of nursing, and I would love for that to be true. But we don't know that that's true. And I really don't think that healthcare is changing anytime soon. So that means that we need to recognize our strengths and our skills and our capacity to change our experience of our circumstances. And yes, we're going to get to like maybe it is the job, it's the problem that we need to change. But we need to first lay that foundation and recognize your strengths and skills to be able to change your experience of your situation before you change the job. Because if you go from the way you're feeling right now to a new job, I pretty much can guarantee that you're going to recreate a lot of the exact same experiences because your brain is so practiced at believing those things. So when it comes to feeling better in your career, it literally is taking the time to find neutral. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more and what that actually means. But it does take work, and to reprogram your brain does take work. But what is it worth? What are you willing to do to feel better? So as I said, that neutral is literally just a stepping stone to creating the mental and physical emotional strength to have that career that you want and actually have that capacity to be present in it, to enjoy it, to feel fulfilled, to create that impact, to do a career that is exactly what you want for yourself, and have that energetic capacity to come home and live a life that you want to live. So we're gonna go back to those like original models that I talked about with those original things, and then literally give you examples of what shifting to neutral means so that you can start creating new neural pathways. And the most important thing that you need to recognize is this is not something that you need to think once. These thoughts that you have about your current nursing job, you think on repeat over and over every single day that you go to shift, your 3, 4 shifts a week that you have, you are thinking on repeat over and over again. Those neural connections are so strong. So this you need to repeat on over and over and over again. And again, it's like, what are you willing to do? It may feel ridiculous to literally be like thinking these thoughts over and over again. Write them on freaking sticky notes, put them on your fridge, put them on your mirror, put them all over the place. It may feel ridiculous, but like, what are you willing to do to actually enjoy your career? Is it thinking thoughts on repeat? It makes a difference. I promise you. I can tell you that as somebody who is still actively working in a nursing job, I absolutely love what I do. Like, yes, there are days that are draining and exhausting, but like 90% of the time, I love what I do. I get lunch breaks, I leave on time, I show up, I'm fully present, I create impact that I want to do. I have that critical thinking. I get to show up and build that nursing job that I enjoy doing. So it is totally possible, and it's been possible for my clients as well. So, okay, the first one we talked about was staffing ratios. So I don't have time to connect and care for my patients. Remember that I'm exhausted, overwhelmed, behind at work, missing breaks, late lunches, spending days off recovering. So what is a neutral thought that she created to feel better? So basically, staff ratio is exactly the same. You walk into work, it's the exact same. recognizing where you're at is also a vital. Not arguing with yourself and arguing with your reality. It's going to create just like so much more pain and discomfort. So literally the new thought that my client chose to think is the circumstances are shitty, but I'm doing the best I can with the time I have. And this thought gave her the empowerment and the self-belief to recognize that yes, there is absolutely things outside of her control. Absolutely. I cannot control the way that healthcare is run right now. I cannot control the staffing ratios, but what I can control is how I'm showing up and what I'm doing with my time. And because she was like, yes, I recognize where I'm at. Circumstances are shitty. Circumstances are shitty, but I'm doing the best I can with the time I have. This is like creating just so much more empowerment. That is like going from like a 2 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 because she's creating that self-belief, which allows her to intentionally show up and focus on the tasks that are important and allowed her for more time to be present and caring for her patients. So it created a situation where her brain could literally work more effectively because she wasn't spiraling and getting frustrated and overwhelmed. Like, how much more effectively can you work when you're not annoyed, mad, frustrated, overwhelmed, exhausted, drained? Like, when your brain is working at full capacity, you can get so much done in so much less time. So because of that, she was able to show up and be fully present and complete her patient care tasks and still have that time to really commit and like be present for her patients in their time of need and be their advocate. And that is something that was like a value of hers in her nursing practice. So the next one we talked about was my client who went from like bachelor's to certifications to graduate school, became a nurse practitioner, and she'd worked too hard to be miserable. So her thought, because she had decided that her current job was not the answer, really was, it's possible for me to have a meaningful nursing job that I enjoy. This is the thing. She didn't quite believe it to be true. So when we add that it's possible for me, it creates that like I'm open for the opportunities. And this is something that's beautiful because it created a sense of hope and possibilities. And this is her putting her brain onto those white Toyota Corollas, but which were her best nursing job. It opened up her for the opportunities to meet the people that she needed to meet, to find those jobs that were the best fit for her. So it's possible for me to have a meaningful nursing career that I enjoy, created that hope for her to be there to really better contribute to her nursing community, to recognize her own strengths and her own capacity to create change and feel purpose in her career so that she could seek growth opportunities and create that career that she actually loved. And it was like created by design rather than just feeling like she kind of fell into it or that it was like the path that she should take. And we're going to talk about more of that because never do what you feel like you should do because it's going to lead you to something you don't want. Okay. And that third example we had talked about was the sick or challenging patients. So this is like, I can't keep putting myself in these stressful situations. There's no way I can enjoy nursing in these conditions. This became, it is possible for me. Again, that was like, it didn't feel true. So she's opening up as it's possible for me to believe this. It's possible for me to create my own resiliency and energetic capacity to handle difficult patients. So this is really like where, because burnout is multifaceted, it is emotional, it is mental, it is physical. We need to have tools and skills in all three areas of those, and that's a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is helping them create those skills in all aspects so that we have that wholeness and being able to handle and have that resiliency for those stressful situations. So it's possible for me to create my own resiliency and energetic capacity to handle difficult situations. So really this helped her just feel strong. It helped her feel like she was just empowered in her own strength. So focusing on those things that we can control and allowing and accepting what we cannot control. So what she did differently was she was intentionally creating routines that helped her feel better so that she set herself up for success going into her shifts with more energetic capacity to handle it and an increased understanding of what she could control. So it was like really like, okay, I recognize that I can't control the patients that I've been assigned today, but what I can control is how I show up, how I'm caring for myself, and having that capacity. So again, this work takes repetition. It's really like what are you willing to do? It it sounds ridiculous being like, just think better thoughts. I know this sounds ridiculous and I get it because I was there too. But when you actually start doing this, it changes the way you interpret your entire situation and allows you to it opens you up for those opportunities. It allows you to start finding those white Toyota Corollas that are your best nursing job, that are opportunities that move you forward in creating more of what you want in your nursing career. So this is a step-by-step path that you need to walk every single day. Your brain is most receptive to thinking new thoughts first thing in the morning within that first hour and then right before you go to bed. So these are the times when it's really important, like when you're driving into work. What are you thinking about? What can you tell yourself? What ways can you focus on that are really recognizing your strengths and the way that you can show up and handle circumstances that are out of your control and focus on the things that are in your control. And again, like at the end of the day, when you're leaving the hospital, like what did you do that is admirable? Like, how did you show up and handle a difficult situation that you're like, I feel like I handled that situation well? Like, what is one thing that you liked from your day? One thing. It's all you need. What is one thing that went well or you handled well throughout your whole day? This is one question that can just start shifting the way that you're focusing on, the way that you're showing up, the way that you're feeling and the experiencing that you're having. This is going from that like 2 to 3 out of 10 to 4, 5, 6 out of 10, growing to 7, 8 to 9 out of 10. It is that step-by-step progression of building those new neural connections, focusing on what is in your capacity to control. Because healthcare, I'd love to say it is, but it is not changing anytime soon. So it becomes, what can we do to change our experience of healthcare to show up in ways that we like? And putting yourself in those situations that you get to recognize your strengths and grow them, it is so incredibly valuable. And the more that you do this, the more that you're aware, the more clear you're going to get on what is important to you, what means a lot to me, like where are my boundaries, what am I willing to accept, what am I not willing to accept, what situations am I going to remove myself from because they don't allow me to feel good, they just constantly drag me down. What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? It's really just becoming aware of that. So the last component that we're going to talk about is finding your best nursing job. And I think this is a lot of where people are like, I just need to find a better job. I need to find a better job. And absolutely, I totally agree. There's 1,000% just awful, toxic nursing jobs out there. And I feel like that is like a recognized thing. And I don't disagree. There's absolutely toxic nursing jobs out there. And there's also a lot of nursing jobs that are just fine. Like they're fine nursing jobs, but they might not be your best nursing job. So there can be things about your nursing job that you like, and there's going to be a lot of things about your nursing job that you dislike. This is about you figuring out if your nursing job is your right nursing job. Like, this is like, okay, the first majority of this call, we talked about like, it's me, I'm the problem. And then it becomes, okay, the job is the problem. And you know what? At the end of the day, both can be a problem, but we're learning how to fix them. This is never about beating yourself up for where you are. This is about recognizing where you are, recognizing your skills, and being able to transition and make those changes. So If we understand how your brain creates the reality in your circumstances, what this allows us to do is also better understand ourselves, better understand what is important to us. Like, what do we focus on? What do we keep coming back to? Like, what kind of things really do we not enjoy? Like, what kind of thing, like situations where we're like, ooh, I really do not like the way that we go about doing this in my job. This is all important because it starts creating that contrast of like, what you don't like. Notice it, be aware of it. In order to create the job that you actually want to be in, that it fits you, you need to understand who you are and what you want for yourself. And also recognizing that, like, this is a constant evolution and growth, especially in nursing. There's so many traditional and non-traditional nursing jobs out there. There's nursing jobs in hospitals, clinics, outpatients, IV clinics, working from home, like sales roles, travel roles. There is so many ways that you can be a nurse and use the skills that you have cultivated in your career up until now. There is no right path. There is only your path. So this is what I talked about earlier when I was like, if it's somebody said a should, it's probably not for you. I see so many nurses who are like, I should do this, I should go do this. And they go and do that. And they suffer from it. And they are just so drained and exhausted because it's not their right path. In nursing school, I mean, it is just like became the common thing being like, you have to start in med surg, you have to get all these experience. And like, absolutely, med surg gives you so much time management experience and like a wide variety of different kind of experience. But if you, from like the moment that you even wanted to be a nurse, was like, I'm going to work with babies. And now you go to med surg and you're dealing with all these 80-year-old people and you're like, I just wanted to work with babies. And you're suffering for the time management experience. I firmly disagree that that is the right answer. And I think there's so many people who are going to be like disagreeing with me. No, you have to do med surg. No, if you know what you want to do, go and follow that path. It does not matter what Sally Joe or anybody else says. You do not need to get your master's degree. If you don't want to get your master's degree, you do not need to get a certification if you don't want to get a certification. You do not need to work with old people if you want to work with babies. This is you getting clear on who you are, what you want. What do you really enjoy doing? This is like, what are you really good at in your current job? But more importantly than what are you good at, what do you actually enjoy doing? Because you could be really good at doing enemas and absolutely hate them. So this is like, what do you enjoy doing in your current nursing job? Is it patient education? Like, is it like maybe research stuff? Is it like critical thinking stuff? Is it charting? Like, maybe informatics is for you. There is so many different options in nursing. So it becomes like literally get out a piece of paper and write down like what are the things that I really enjoy doing in my nursing job. Like if I could take some time right now and just envision what my ideal nursing job would look like, what would I be doing? What skills would I be utilizing? How would my day be set up or my night be set up? How would I, what kind of hours would I be working? All of these things are important. When you create a list of all of the things that you can think of that are important to you. And you can also create a list of all the things that like really bother you and you firmly dislike. And what it comes down to as when you start creating this list of things that are important to me, and then you create and look through those lists and things, okay, these are non-negotiables. I must have this in a role, or I must not have this in a role. It's non-negotiable that I never have to deal with this situation again, or it's a non-negotiable, or this is important to me. And then you can also have, so non-negotiables must have. It's important to me is like, it's everything else is checked, I can let this thing go. And then the other category is it's nice, but it's not required for my ideal job. When you start to list all those things, it becomes more clear what you're looking for. Then it really is, does your current job have those qualities? Does it check most of the boxes? Or does it not? It's completely like this is subjective to you, your experience of your right nursing. Are you getting to use those skills that you really want to do? Are you doing the things that you are good at and enjoy doing? Is your job checking a lot of those boxes? If it's yes, amazing. Then it goes back to focusing on the controllables, doing that mindset work to make yourself feel better, to really connect in with who you are, what you want, and start creating your current nursing job into something better for you, for your personal life, for your professional life. If your job is like Xing out everything, like I do not meet most of these things, or some of my non-negotiables are not met, then it comes to be okay, it's time to find a new job that does fit this. This is when it's really important to just start exploring options that are out there and evaluating, is this for me? Not because somebody else did it, not because like somebody earned a ridiculous amount of money doing that. Like yes, money is important and I think every nurse deserves to get paid more. But at the end of the day, we also just have to show up in ways that make us feel good. And if it's, if you have $100,000 sign-on bonus, but you are putting yourself back into a state of burnout and just working in shitty conditions, is it worth it to you? Maybe it is, but you're going to stay in burnout. So it's kind of those things. What is important? And start looking for opportunities that are out there that fit those qualities, not the specific job descriptions. Because if you're a person who's ever looked at jobs, 90% of the time, the title is just like random and not related. And especially if you're looking for non-traditional nursing roles, the job title is going to be totally random and absurd and kind of probably have nothing to do with nurse related into it, even if it is a nursing role. So start looking for job qualities. Start looking at job descriptions and think like, okay, does this check these boxes? Then you start doing interviews. And you can start doing interviews with it being like, I have no expectations. Like I literally just want to start connecting and seeing if these qualities are met. That is when you're meeting with a interviewer, a manager, whatnot, you are interviewing them more than they're interviewing you, most likely, because you are the one who's offering your value, your service to them. Like, yes, they need to make sure that you've checked the boxes as well, but this is about you finding your best fit. Never be afraid to ask, because the worst case scenario is that you go to that job and end up, having all these qualities that you hate. So be willing to ask. Be willing to ask like what their management styles are. Be willing to see, like, just ask how the unit is run. Are these opportunities here? Is this something that is a part of this role? Like, be willing to ask, because your short-term discomfort in those interviews, is it worth the long-term payoff? Because I firmly believe that I would rather be uncomfortable while asking a stranger these questions in this moment to be able to have a better long-term career. So start doing these things, figuring out who you are, open yourself up to opportunities that are all around you. When you start honing in on them, start looking for those white Toyota Corollas, looking for those opportunities. This is really you creating that foundation for your career for years to come. There are so many opportunities, but follow the opportunities that are best for you. Not what you feel like you should do, not what you feel like somebody else did and they liked. This is about what you want to do for you. Nobody else. You're the one that gets to live your life. So what are you willing to do to create that for yourself? So if all of this has really helped you and you have learned some things that are really beneficial for you, I absolutely love that. And I'm so grateful that you have been here. Um, if you got what you came for, you are more than welcome to hop off the call now. If you still feel like you need more, you want more support, you want more um, like a better understanding of this, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of my previous client stories, and then I'm going to be making just an offer for what it would look like to work together, what it looks like to be a nurse working with a burnout coach and creating that career that you get to love inside and out of the hospital. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in just learning more about, stay on. Otherwise, I will talk to you all again later. If you have any questions, I am here. So I wanted to talk about, first I'm going to talk about my client. We're going to call her Mary, who definitely thought the job was the problem. So she had just become a nurse practitioner. She had transitioned into a new role that was honestly very vague. And she was like, I don't think that this is the role for me. Like, there's just no direction, there's no clarity. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just feel kind of lost and like drained and exhausted because I'm running around in like a ping pong ball with no clear direction. So when we started working together, we helped with all of the components of burnout, the mental, emotional, physical components of burnout. We created those systems so that she had that sense of wholeness to be able to heal from burnout. And what it came to was, for her job, was getting really clear on who she was, what she wanted in her career, what was most important to her. And because her job was so vague, we actually created the role into what was best for her. We utilized her strengths. You know, she pitched it to the like director and the physicians that she was working with, and they loved it because she used her strengths. She used her ideas and like what was most important to her and her passions. So she literally created that job into what something that she was wanting. And I know that that's not the opportunity for everybody, and not every role is like that, but there are so many opportunities in nursing where we can create something for the better and make it something amazing for us. So even though she didn't even recognize that the opportunity was there in front of her because she was just feeling the drain, burnout, exhausted, it was there. So there's so many opportunities when we start looking for them, when we start looking for those white Toyota Corollas that come up. And the reason I say it 800 times is so that you like recognize that that is in your capacity. Another client that I have, we will call her Leah, was incredibly burnout in her job. And despite it like be so for her, her job was just extremely demanding. So she was working in a like complex unit that had a very high acuity of care. And so she started to do the thought work. She started to get all of the things in place, but it was realizing that even though she worked so hard to be where she was at, and she thought that this was the right floor, and she thought that this was the place that she was going to get the experience that she wanted, the demands of that floor were not in line with like what she wanted for herself and her career. And so now she's in that process of healing and doing this work, and is applying and starting to interview and like create those jobs that are in line with her. So I think this is something that's really important, is like there are situations where your current job is the right job. And then there's also situations where your current job is not the right job. And a lot of the times when clients come to me and we start working together, like I they may have an idea of what they want, but they're not really sure because they haven't spent that time to actually figure out what they actually want. And I'm like, I have no idea what they're going to do. I am here to kind of mirror and help you understand yourself and help you take action and have that accountability and really make those moves that allow you to do. So everything we covered is just helping you understand your brain and how you experience nursing. So we've talked about like finding neutral. We've talked about really where you're at right now. Then we talked about the finding neutral, and then we talked about creating that perfect nursing job. So we covered a lot of things and a lot of information that is hopefully going to like blow your brain in a little bit, to just open yourself up to the possibility that change is within your capacity. So if this is hitting home for you, I love that. This is really the work that I do with my clients, is helping them understand themselves, helping them create systems so that they can create boundaries around what it is that they truly do want, that we can help you emotionally process so that you can feel better, so that you can create resiliency reserves to have that energetic capacity to handle whatever is happening, so you can understand that mindset of what it takes to be a fulfilled nurse. And when we incorporate all of these key pieces together, you create that sense of wholeness and really truly get to have a nursing career that you love so that you can show up and create that impact. And most importantly, go home to create a life that you want to live, that you are fully present for and are creating what you want. So when I work with my clients, I work with them on a one-on-one basis. So basically, this looks like weekly Zoom-based calls. We get together for an hour. We talk about all these things that we've been talking about. We have a step-by-step action plan to heal the burnout and achieve their career goals that is unique to them. I have a burnout healing process that I follow, but I take those components and like piece them together for you and where you're at specifically. So what your learning needs are and literally help you understand them so and then apply them over the long term so you can truly have this healing long term. So when life happens, which is going to happen, you don't end up in that state of burnout again. It is really giving you those tools and resources to have long-term sustainable change and career growth as a nurse. And I think this is something that is really important to me. And it's also why I've have my program is 6 months. So I have literally coached people for shorter and I've coached people for longer, but 6 months has been the optimum amount of time to allow life to happen because life is going to happen. Something in your personal life, something in your professional life is going to change and it is going to, be difficult. This is like I would love to say that like life is not going to be difficult, but we know life is going to be difficult. So shit is going to happen. And when we work together for that long term, what it allows you to do is to work through that situation that happens and build stronger brain connections, stronger awareness, stronger routines, stronger resiliency to handle those situations. And you have that like person to walk you through it so that you create that strong skill set so that when life happens again in the future, because life doesn't just happen once, you already know exactly how to handle difficult situations and navigate those. And so this is exactly what I work on. If coaching sounds like something that you feel would be beneficial for you in your life and your career, I want to offer you a free burnout triage call. So this is basically a call where you and I get together. We go over your exact situation. We look at what is causing your specific burnout and how to fix it. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, you can click on the link in the comments section, or I will be sending out the replay and there will be a link to book a consult call, a burnout triage consult call then. I want to thank you all for sharing your time with me. It has been an honor to talk to you, to really kind of like hopefully open up your perspective about what is possible for you in your nursing career and how to feel more empowered in what you can control within your nursing career. So if I have any questions, I will open that up now. And I'm going to stop the recording so people can be, if they have any like personal questions, that they get that opportunity for those who are here live. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have an amazing day and I will talk to you again soon.